Welcome back, Sebastian here. So finishing up my look at each F1 team through the quarter mark of the 2024 F1 season, finishing up with your Constructors' Championship leaders, Red Bull. So for Red Bull, pretty good season so far, not as good as their start to 2023, obviously. Only won for the first 6 races, but still, very, very good season. They look like they're well on their way to a 4th straight Drivers' Championship and 3rd straight Constructors' Championship. So, first taking a look at their race-by-race results. Bahrain 1-2, Verstappen leading home Perez. Saudi Arabia again, another 1-2. However, Australia does not go so smoothly. Verstappen retires in the opening laps with a brake failure. Perez struggled a bit in that race with tire wear or incorrect setup, that kind of thing, and comes home in 5th. Then we get to Japan, another Red Bull 1-2, a track that many expected them to be very strong at anyway. And then we get to China, where it's the first non-1-2 where both drivers finished the race with a 1-3, Verstappen leading home, Perez, and of course Lando Norris sandwiched in the middle. And then we get to Miami, the first time where Verstappen has not won and in a race where she's actually finished, with Verstappen 2nd and Perez in 4th. Obviously Miami is sprint weekend. And yeah, arguably you can make, the argument that McLaren did a really good job, looked very quick all weekend, and simply Red Bull kind of made some mistakes with the setup. Verstappen himself possibly made some mistakes as well with that mistake at the turn 15-16 chicane. But nonetheless, when you do the driver head-to-head comparison, it's pretty much how you would expect it to go. Points 136 for Verstappen, Perez 103. Average finishing position, so this includes all the races, including sprints, 1.14. Average starting position, 1.38. So that 1/4 place starting position from the sprint in China, weighing that stat down. For Perez, 3.0, and average starting position is 3.88. So both drivers improving on their starting positions when they finish the race, the Grand Prix or the sprint, and of course, Verstappen about a position or 2.5 positions ahead of Perez for starting position, and about a position, almost 2 positions ahead for finishing position, which is about what you would expect. Qualifying head-to-head 6-0 in favor of Verstappen, but that's honestly not a big deal. But honestly, Perez's qualifying so far this year has been a big improvement over how things went as a whole last year. So average qualifying delta through 6 races this year is 0.277, just shy of 0.3 of a second. Last year in 2023, across the entire season, it was over 0.6 of a second. So Perez, at least through the first 6 races, has halved that qualifying deficit, and now the big test will be seeing how he fares in Europe. I don't really have a ton of expectations either way. I kind of expect things to stay the same. But that being said, one of the things that we know that happened last year is that when the upgrades started coming and the car started changing, that Perez became more and more uncomfortable with the car. And of course, this weekend in Imola will be one of Red Bull's first big upgrade packages. So if that car kind of goes away from how Perez likes it, he may find himself in the same difficulty that he had last year. I don't think it's really a track-specific thing, but something that it's a sentiment that I can understand with a lot of these European tracks being a lot more front limited, Perez historically being quite good at rear limited tracks, but Japan was a big outlier in that compared to 2023. He was absolutely awful there. It's a track that's similar in its characteristics to the European tracks, but he did do very well there in both the race and in qualifying. Now, when we look at points above expected, surprisingly both drivers are in the negative here. So for Verstappen, -3, but pretty much all of that is going to come down to the DNF from pole in Australia. For Perez, -0.07, so that rounds up to 100 basically, and he's basically doing exactly what he needs to be doing in the races. So for both drivers, I think doing a decent job. Verstappen obviously there for a long time. Perez, I think as of now, it's about the same, maybe arguably slightly better than what he was doing at the start of 2023. But yeah, now this is kind of where the rubber meets the road for Perez, and he really needs to prove over the next, I would say 6 to 10 races that he's the driver for Red Bull to continue to work with for the next 2 to 3 years. Now, finishing up with Red Bull, the constructor, 2022, 759 points, first in the Constructors' Championship. After the first quarter of the season, 151 points. Not the smoothest of starts. Remember, in Bahrain, they had a double DNF, and then Australia, Verstappen DNF'd as well. So 3 DNFs in the first 3 races definitely left a dent in their points tally. Average pole gap over the course of the whole season was 0.185 seconds, which was second behind Ferrari. And we know Ferrari were very, very good on one lap pace that year, like throughout the whole year. Second half of the season, though, chewed up its tires like no tomorrow. Red Bull was pretty easy for the Red Bull to overtake them on track. 2023, 860 points. That's definitely a record for constructors. Actually, I'm not even sure. It should be a record for a constructors tally, but I would need to check that. 224 points through the first quarter of the season. Very, very strong first quarter. First in the constructors, average pole gap 0.131 seconds. First in which ranked first. So qualifying didn't even improve that much from 2022 to 2023, but it was really the gains in race pace, tire management that really saw those massive gains in performance last year. Now we get to 2024, 239 points, slightly better than last year, but I believe we have 1 sprint in there as well. We have 1 sprint, sprint extra, so I think that probably contributes to the difference there. First in the constructors, an average pole gap of 0 seconds. They've taken every single pole position in qualifying for the main Grand Prix. Of course, they've lost 1 pole position, I guess, unofficial pole position for the sprint in China, but that is not included in this statistic. So overall, very good start to the season for Red Bull. At this point in time, doesn't seem like anyone's really going to challenge them for either the Drivers' or Constructors' Championship. That being said, if the upgrade packages completely change the pecking order after Imola, then that's a different conversation that we could be having. But as of the recording of this video, seems like Red Bull are pretty much on a pretty smooth course for both winning the constructors and winning the drivers. And despite all of the stuff that's happening off track, stuff I haven't really covered in this video, of course, with stuff around Christian Horner and with Adrian Newey leaving the team, at least in the short term in 2024, it doesn't seem to have a big impact on the team. So there you go. That's the end of my look at each F1 team after the first quarter of the season. Pretty happy with how this year's videos went. And looking forward to F1 this weekend in Imola. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.